As a county commissioner, I get to say the pledge 3 or 4 times a day. For a lot of the boards and committees that I serve on, they start their meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And the Board of County Commissioners does the same thing when we have our public, our business meetings on Tuesdays in Littleton. So that, and Dr. Cog, everybody starts their meetings the same way. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Jeff Baker. I'm County Commissioner in District 3. I'll talk a little bit about the Board of County Commissioners for those that may not have heard me speak before or may not know anything about me. I'll give you a little bit of my background, but we won't spend a lot of time on that. I do want to say thank you to Jordan Ames in the back. She is with our communications staff, and she is the one who provided us with the cookies and the refreshments back there. So thank you to her. I need to make sure everyone's aware we are recording this session, and that's typical for how the county commissioners do. We will be posting this on, the county has a YouTube site, account, however that works. I'm not real savvy with that, but we do try to post, and it will also help Jordan and the other county staff that are here tonight as they make notes and follow up with you on any questions or anything that you might need to get more information on. So, a little bit about me. First of all, Jeff Baker. I'm serving in my 3rd and final term as Arapahoe County Commissioner in District 3. I was first elected in 2016, re-elected in 2020, and in 2024. So my term will end at the end of 2028, beginning of 2029, and I'll be stepping down. People ask me if I have any political ambitions beyond being a county commissioner, and I say no, not at all. I don't want to drive downtown to Denver, and as our representative here can tell you, it's not always easy to drive to downtown. I spend enough time in downtown because I'm currently the chair of the Denver Regional Council of Governments, which is a group of 59 different jurisdictions that send their mayors and their city council people to this and work with CDOT and RTD, mostly on transportation issues, the federal funding that comes into the state from the federal government has to be divided out. First, CDOT gets their little bit, of course, the Colorado Department of Transportation, and then they send that money to the MPOs, the Metropolitan Planning Organizations, and Dr. Cog is one of those. So, I'm retired Army CW2. I was a criminal investigator for the Army, a CID special agent, and so I spent a lot of time traveling and seeing the world and doing that sort of stuff. It was exciting to do that in my younger years. I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. Many of you know my wife, Young-sun, who I met in Korea, and we've been married for 45 years. So, yeah, I'm proud of that. 45 years. So, happy marriage, as a matter of fact. So, again, the Board of County Commissioners, there's 5 of us, 5 districts. I have the most easternmost. I have the largest geographical area, which means I have the most windshield driving time. And I don't mind doing that, that's fine, and get out as much as I can. Some of the boards that I'm currently sitting on, as I said, I'm chair of the Denver Regional Council of Governments. I sit on the Centennial Airport Board. I am on the AQUA, which stands for Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Authority Board. Some of the other boards that I serve on, I was appointed by the governor to sit on the State Board of Human Services. So that's a once a month meeting. There are 3 county commissioners on that board. State Board of Human Services, and we listen to all things human services and also behavioral health administration as a new endeavor. I say new, 2 years now. The behavioral health administration has been in effect. They don't have a governing board, so they use the State Board of Human Services to make rules. So we're rule-making authority for the state. And I also sit on another state board. It's the Sex Offender Management Board. Now that may sound like a really, really fun board to sit on. Maybe not. It's not really all that fun. But my background when I was a criminal investigator for the Army was mainly crimes against children, but also sexual assault type investigations. So that's why my background was suitable to be appointed to sit on that board. There are 5 county commissioners. As I said, we get along really well. We don't always agree on policy. We don't always agree on things that are coming before the Board of County Commissioners. Representative Richardson can tell you a little bit more about that since he served on the Elbert County Board of County Commissioners for 8 years before moving and now driving downtown all the time for at least 4 months, right? My question that I want to ask him is, if it's called every year, is it truly a special session? If they call it every single year by the governor, so that's just one of the things. So I have a few things here at the county level that I want to talk to you about, just to make sure that you're up to speed. Investing in Arapahoe. That phrase, those words may mean something to you. If you followed the election in 2024, in which it was ballot measure 1A, in which the Board of County Commissioners put a ballot measure to de-Bruce, essentially, to remove themselves from the requirement, and I moved, sorry, releases the county from revenue and spending limits imposed by the taxpayers' Bill of Rights. I did vote against putting that on the ballot, and that was a 4-1 vote. So that's kind of how things work now with the Board of County Commissioners. But we did work to ensure that the ballot measure was fully transparent. We appointed a board of citizens, a resident advisory committee, to oversee how that money is being spent. And every decision that the board wanted to take with that 1A specific funding was long-term sustainability in mind. It isn't about quick fixes. This is about laying the groundwork for decades of success. So a cornerstone of this effort was this resident advisory committee. And we did have 2 appointees from my district, from District 3. One is out in Deer Trail. Robin, I'm not going to remember her last name. Robin, she works for the Morgan Community College. And then there was another appointee from District 3 that lives in Aurora. My district's pretty wide. I have the eastern part of Aurora, eastern part of Centennial, and then Watkins, Strasburg, Bennett, Myers, and Deer Trail. So the committee looked at everything that we were planning to spend that money on. And on November 4th, they unanimously endorsed the funding that was proposed in our budget. The proposed 2026 budget includes increased funding for essential services, infrastructure, and road maintenance, public safety, housing, and protective services. So a wide gamut of things that we're going to be spending that money on. I wanted to point out that it's a historic number of dollars that we are, and again, this hasn't been approved yet. In fact, December 9th, next Tuesday, will be the approval of that budget. So the proposed budget that I'm talking about includes $13.9 million in the capital improvement program to specifically address the infrastructure projects such as roads, aging roadways, and bridges and things like that. We're adding 32 additional employees in the sheriff's office, district attorney's and coroner's office, so the public safety aspect of that. We're adding employees and making investments in housing and providing protective services to our most at-risk individuals who are the very, very young and the very, very old through our human services. Many of you may have heard that during the federal government shutdown, the county SNAP benefits. Now, SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutritional Payments. It's what they used to call food stamps. So I'm pretty old school. That's how I remember it. So many families and older adults were left without the support that they count on. The board approved emergency funding to support several local nonprofit partners, including Integrated Family Community Services, the Village Exchange Center, Nourish Meals on Wheels, Deer Trail Food Pantry, and several school-based food pantries. You also, we want to say thank you to everyone that stepped up, maybe through your church, your place of faith, your worship area, and really contributed a lot. So a lot of folks really stepped up for that. I wanted to talk about the snow plan for 2025 and 2026, and we have some folks here from Road and Bridge that can answer more questions about that if you have it. 9 new hires on board for Road and Bridge. There will be 2 snowplow drivers per shift on each of the county's 11 routes. This is a significant boost in service compared to prior years. We're hiring even more, so if you know somebody that may already have a CDL or want to obtain one, then please have them take a look at our employment website. We have a great hiring program. It's a stable career with excellent benefits. So during snowstorms, Road and Bridge usually deploys around 22 snowplows from its service centers in Bennett and in Centennial to keep more than 670 miles of roadway clear and passable. They do rank the roads. A lot of it has to do with school bus routes and whether they're arterial and things like that. They have priority 1, priority 2. Priority 1 are major thoroughfares and roads that serve schools and major business centers. The second priority is called collector roadways that connect residential corridors to major thoroughfares. We do have that on our website. If you don't know our website, please take a look at that. We're also working on a comprehensive safety action plan. This is our transportation division working on this plan to identify where safety improvements are the most needed. So the county's partnering, of course, with the Sheriff's Office, Colorado Department of Transportation, the Colorado State Patrol, and the Denver Regional Council of Governments to formulate the plan. Dr. Cog is important in those things. Denver Regional Council of Governments. I said Dr. Cog sometimes. Somebody said, "Doctor, what are you talking about your doctor for?" They do a lot of GPS and they do a mapping. And they do planning. They're always keeping track of where new buildings are, new developments and things like that. That's why they're involved in that. They're going to analyze crash trends and roadway conditions to identify high-risk areas and prioritize their strategies. So we need your help there too. If you've got eyes on a problem that is, you think, a safety issue, you can always contact the Public Works Department. We've got folks here from the Public Works Department, and they'll give you an email address or a phone number to call them. The buyer sub-area plan is a document that was first approved in 2003. We're updating that because a lot of the assumptions that were made in 2003 either did not happen or they were bigger than expected. So that's why we have to update that plan. It currently has some unrealistic goals, and it doesn't have any specific recommendations to meet those goals. Buyers has not grown as projected in that 2000. I don't know if that's a surprise to anybody that it hasn't grown, but we want to make sure that that plan really fits with what's going on. Currently, the draft plan creates a community-based vision for buyers in the next 20 years. Population projections based on anticipated growth along the I-70 corridor. Has anyone heard about the enterprise zone? We have successfully added buyers, and I think even Deer Trail, to an enterprise zone where businesses that are starting out can get credits and take advantage of some benefits of being in that. It's state tax credits. So we're going to be doing more public outreach on that plan, and there's a website for that too. Some updates from open spaces, folks. We recently completed the expansion of the Rich Mill open space parking lot. We had a little ceremony at the Deer Trail town trustee meeting the other night. About $500,000 was funded, and that included some drainage work and like I said, enlarging the parking lot to include 12 vehicle spaces, 6 horse trailer stalls, 12 vehicle spaces, and new amenities including a kiosk, another trail, and a new sign. So, the Coyote Creek open space is a 265-acre property. It's about 2 miles south of Bennett, and a master plan was adopted by the board in 2022. But we have a new blueprint for developing the property and opening that up for more people to use trails, equestrian mountain bike trails, archery range, picnic area, an outdoor classroom, and more coming. The Bijou Basin Open Space Plan spans 3,100 acres of protected land about 5 miles south of Byers. It's currently closed to the public, but it's being used for cattle grazing and dry land farming. We do lease grazing rights to local ranchers on those open spaces that we have. Again, you'll be hearing more about open spaces, conducting community outreach about that, asking people what they want to see. Right now, it's going to have hiking, trail running. Anybody a trail runner? I am. No, I'm not. I only run when people are chasing me. So. Anyway, so we're going to protect wildlife. We'll continue to have cattle grazing. I'm trying to get bison on some of the county open space at some point or another. I think working with the Northern Arapahoe tribe kind of open up an opportunity where we might be able to do some of that. I do want to give Representative Richardson a little bit of time here, if you don't mind. Let him introduce himself and talk to you a little bit. Chris, do you want to come up real quick? We're old friends. He was a county commissioner in Elgin.
Thanks. Is this working? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. No, this is absolutely new technology for me. So anyway, I just really wanted to say thank you for coming out and appreciate Commissioner Baker for inviting me. It's a big district. I represent all of Elbert, Lincoln, Kit Carson, and Cheyenne, and the best parts of El Paso, Adams, and Arapahoe. And by the best parts, I mean the rural eastern parts. So, but it's a big district. It's about 140 miles east to west, 100 miles north to south, and about 89,000 residents. So about 8 people per square mile. So this is a pretty big crowd for me once I get out of Denver. And as I said, I don't really like driving into Denver, but it's very nice to drive out of Denver every day. So that's probably the best part of the day is putting that city in the background. But again, I try to get out and about, and I am out and about. And if I don't see a lot of folks that I recognize, and I feel badly about that, but I would say there's 32 different towns and municipalities that I represent, and 34 school districts. So as much as I try to be everywhere that I can be, it sometimes takes 2 or 3 visits before I see all the people that come out to things like this. So that I appreciate. Just a little bit about myself. Family on both sides were farmers and dairymen in New England. I chose an easier path and joined the Army. Served for 23 years, retired as a brigade commander at Fort Carson. Along the way, I met a wonderful lady from Longmont, and we have one daughter who's, surprisingly enough, turning 21 this coming year, which seems impossible. Kind of started down this path. Retired from the Army, wasn't sure what I was going to do when I grew up. And in that year after retirement, my daughter started kindergarten. She came home with her Friday folder of things that they come home with, and they were looking for some folks to volunteer for a infrastructure assessment committee. They were looking at a bond for the school district, and I volunteered because I had nothing better to do and thought I should be involved in things that affected my family. And one thing led to another, and I asked, after I submitted to be considered, about 2 weeks later, I hadn't heard anything. I called, like, oh, there were 12 people. You're all on the committee, and you're the first one to call, so we'd like you to chair the first meeting. So wound up chairing that committee and going to quite a few school board meetings. And at the end of that year, there were some vacancies, and ran and was elected to the school board. And a few years later, we had some issues within the county, and Elbert County, we were talking, has always been hurting for money, but out of the recession, it was really in bad shape, and seemed like I could do something, so I ran and served 2 terms there in Elbert County, and was about ready to have to retire again and figure out it once again, try to figure out what to do when I grew up. And that was when, unfortunately, Rob Buckton fell ill, wasn't able to run for another term, and did eventually pass away earlier this year. So, but he was somebody I did respect, grateful, just tremendous man, a lot of knowledge, and as a new county commissioner coming in, he and I talked quite a bit, as he had quite a few years on the Arapahoe board under his belt. So, not the way I would have intended to come into any position, but I'm glad to be here now. But as I was saying, what kind of propelled me in what I kind of frame everything through is the opportunities that I had growing up, and that my wife had growing up in Colorado, and the opportunities that our daughter doesn't seem to have anymore. The state has changed, obviously. I served here in the mid-90s at Carson, actually originally up at the Fitzsimmons Hospital, and then our office moved down to Carson. Even Aurora was very different, but pleasant in the 90s, and that has changed a lot. So the work in the State House is interesting. Once you get, from the outside looking in, it's bad. From the inside, it's probably worse than you can imagine. So serving the House of Representatives, as I said, there's 65 representatives, and it's all population based. So out of those 65, there's only 12 of us that represent more than one county, largely rural. But that's 12 out of 65. And if you want to know why the state goes in the direction it does, is there are so many representatives, and the same is pretty much true in the Senate as well, that live in that Denver metro area, and they do have the same problems. And they ought to leave them to Denver to solve the Denver problems, but they try to solve them from the State House. So my role, at least on the House floor, along with my rural brethren, is to stand there and try to explain why bills that they're passing that may be good for Denver really hurt rural Colorado. And you don't have to, I mean, we could talk roadways and highways forever, but that's one obvious illustration, but it just really distorts where the energy and the resources in this state goes. So I do my best to at least let folks know the problems they're gonna cause, and that's kind of, as a Republican, I'm one of 22 of 65, so we know we're not going to win a lot, but we do our best to at least ensure that they understand or have heard that they're gonna cause damage to our small communities. That my focus truly is to try to strengthen and preserve our small communities. I mean, that means decent schools, it means good roads to get around in, it means accessibility to healthcare. Those three things kind of make a community. The churches definitely, but should be completely separate from government. So, yeah, that's one I take on personally. But it's been a fascinating year. I'm just finishing up my first one. As was mentioned, we've had 2 sessions, and I think the question of whether they're special, they're not. I think technically they're extraordinary sessions, but in reality they're just an extraordinary session where the things that happen sometimes leave you shaking your head. The state has been overspending and expanding what they spend money on for way too long. You'll see a lot of it in the papers, and a lot of it announced. So we started last year, there was an estimate that we were $1.2 billion short of revenue against what the projected expenses for the state were gonna be. And there was a lot of work done to really last year go through all the couch cushions in the state and find all the loose change, pull that together, push off the starts of some programs, and then spend down some of the reserves to kind of cover that gap. So breathe a sigh of relief, and in May we had a budget, and then the federal HR1, the big beautiful bill, made some changes, and I think they're appropriate ones because the federal government's on an unsustainable path as well, so they had to find ways to cut. The big impacts to the state immediately were some changes in tips and overtime, but probably the biggest one was for businesses being able to expense capital purchases all in their first year instead of spreading those out over several years. So that led to an immediate shortfall. It's debatable whether it was the $800 million that the governor claimed it to be. We came into session for 6 days. We were very frustratingly not allowed to propose anything that cut any costs to the state. The only bills that were being accepted were ones that increased revenue. And when you're increasing revenue to the state, you're really talking about taking money out of our own pockets. That really wasn't right. We covered about half that gap. And we were there for 6 days working hard, and the day after we went home, the governor filled the other half of the gap unilaterally by cutting Medicaid reimbursement, cutting money to higher education, and taking more money out of the reserves. Honestly, I think those are decisions that the legislature should have been working on together to prioritize what the state needs. That really shouldn't have been a governor's decision, but it was. So in August sometime, we were once again balanced, and now we're projecting another $1.4 billion shortfall. And it's interesting when you talk numbers like that, I see head shaking, and I shake my head too, because we were $1.2 billion short. We found the money to cover those $1.2 billion, but somehow the budget grew by $3 billion last year, almost four. So this continuously being short, filling that, what seems like a gap to where we should be, always winds up with a bigger budget, and that's not sustainable. So a lot of this began really back when Governor Hickenlooper was in office. There was an expansion of Medicaid, and Colorado is one of the ones that expanded Medicaid, knowing that the federal government was not going to cover that bill forever. That bill was really coming due to the state about the time COVID hit. So rather than having to deal with that problem, we had COVID, and the federal government pushed a whole lot of money down on the state, and the state used it to, again, expand programs, and now that COVID money is gone. So really what we're looking at is about 10 to 12 years of somebody else footing the bill for what Colorado has chosen to do, and now that money is gone. So this next year is going to be very interesting. There's no money for new programs. There's obviously a lot of push, unfortunately, and they'll hear from myself and other former county commissioners that are now at the State House that you can't just push that down on the counties and expect them to pay for it. Because one, it's not fair, but two, we never look at, are we getting anything for the money we're spending? I mean, anybody that drives our highways would probably say no. That's very easy. We don't get the money that we don't get any bang for the buck. We really need kind of a top to bottom review of what our priorities are in the state and how do we get moving again. 2 or 3 years ago, we were a very business friendly state. It had started to change, but 3 or 4 years ago, we were running $3 to $4 billion Tabor surpluses. We ended last year with $300 million in Tabor surplus. So I mean, that's just gives you kind of an illustration of how much the economy has shrunk in this state. I mean, it's Tabor surpluses are great, because those get returned back to us, and that's an awesome thing. But if we're not generating those surpluses, and we've been moving that rapidly in the wrong direction, you know, it's a big warning sign, and we're starting to see that now. So I don't want to take an awful lot more time here. I'm available for questions. I've got a bunch of little brochures here if you want them. Just they've got my phone number, my email address. Reach out anytime, and I will tell you, if you have the opportunity, and there's something that's important to you, to come and testify on a bill. The voices of folks that are truly impacted do make a difference in that building. I wish it made all the impact in the world, but I've seen it in a few very distinct cases over this last year where somebody came in and told their story and said, this will ruin my business and it will ruin it in this way, and changes were made. So if there is something that's coming up, please reach out. Also on that little flyer on my website, I put out a weekly newsletter. I ask you to just sign up, because that's one good way I can put out information each week on just what's going on. And as the session gets going, I'll let you know what bills I think are impacting our areas. So thank you very much.
All right, before I introduce our some of our guests here, I do want to point out that in the back there are flyers. The F&M Bank in Bennett is holding a silent auction fundraiser. The money will go to the American Legion. I belong to this American Legion post, and so I want to encourage anyone. This is on December 11th. I can't be there due to other commitments, but I did submit a auction item. So This is whiskey distilled in Arapahoe County. It's not mine, it's off of Arapahoe. This and a lunch with me. So I don't know which one will get more money. I'm assuming the whiskey will. But if you do want to bid on those silent auction things, please take a look at the flyers that are on the back table back there, and you can go to that fundraiser. So now, as Captain Heath, are you gonna, that's right?
You want me to go?
Sure, if you like, or Jason, one of you guys can do rock, paper, scissors. Kevin Eaton is with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, and they'll give us an update on law enforcement activities here in the quarter.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay?
Oh,
Okay, I'm working, I think.
sure.
Everyone can hear? Okay. All right, Commissioner had asked me to speak about a couple specific things. One issue specifically was we identified a property, not here in Byers, but farther west in Bennett, that was opened up their land to weddings and different parties that was causing concern for the neighbors in that area. So I haven't heard anything out here in this area of town, but to let you know, something like that should be going on. Let us know. We're working with zoning to speak to that property owner directly, for zoning violations. And then we also cited that person for different criminal statutes that they had violated. So in cooperation, throughout the county government here, we were addressing that. But apparently it's somewhat of a concern that maybe other people would open up their land for things similarly. So if you see that going on, let us know, and we'll work with you and try and get that curtailed. The other thing I wanted to, okay. Okay, can you hear me? Yep. Okay. I think I gotta have that. We'll try our best. I don't think I got this all right. How about that way? There we go. Okay. Another thing I want to just spin off of what Commissioner talked about is the 1A funding. So for the Sheriff's Office specifically, our request to the commissioners is we want to add, over the next 4 years, we want to add 40 additional deputies just for the unincorporated areas of the county, the patrol and service. So this next year, if the budget is approved as requested, we're going to be adding 10 additional deputies. 4 of those are going to go to patrol. I am currently the patrol captain, and I've already identified all 4 of those positions are coming out east, out here in this area of the county, just so you know. So we're going to be beefing up our day shift teams on both sides of the week, as well as our swing shift teams with those 4 deputies. We have 4 additional patrol or traffic deputies are going to be added if the budget's approved again as well. That will increase our traffic enforcement for the unincorporated areas of the county. And then we're going to add 2 additional investigators. So that's the goal for this next year. And then hopefully the next 3 years following, we'll continue to do that, add 10 deputies each year. So that's the 1A funding that was approved for you folks. So we appreciate that very much. The other thing, maybe some of you have heard, but Animal Services is now under the Sheriff's Office. They used to be a standalone department within the county government. They are now part of our Sheriff's Office. They report to our Special Operations Unit in Patrol, Public Safety Bureau. And they gave me a little rundown of things that have changed here for you guys' knowledge. But this year so far, I guess they've had 317 calls out here in this eastern portion of the county. Most of them, they call them cases plus follow-ups, but most frequently type calls that they get are dogs running at large, animal welfare checks, dog bites, injuries, that type of thing. In comparison to last year, there was 286 calls, so it's pretty similar to the year before. So the benefits of animal services coming under the sheriff's office. So when you need to call now, you don't have to have a separate number you have to memorize for animal services. You can just call dispatch and we will, dispatch the officers directly through our communication center. So that's a plus for you folks. We're here to support each other. A lot of the animal cruelty cases that they investigate cross over into criminal charges and such, so we work hand in hand with them. So that's going to be better communication and better support to each other by working in the same office. We also can provide them better equipment and things that they didn't have before, as far as they didn't have body worn cameras prior, but it's a requirement for us to wear them. They didn't necessarily have the most updated radio systems, radios in their cars and to carry. Now they do. So we can provide them a lot of resources that they didn't have prior by incorporating into the sheriff's office. The other thing that Alyssa had written down here, some major changes, is for first reported offenses where owners are educated on a violation are now being done in person. I guess prior, they used to send a notice in the mail that there was a complaint about their animals running at large or what have you. So now they're coming in person for these things. And the hope is that in-person communication and contact is gonna lessen the likelihood of reoffenses. So that's something new. And then they've also added the ability for folks to submit a victim or witness statement online. So you just have to go to the website and look for animal services, and you can make a statement online, or before you weren't able to do that. And then in addition, I guess, to that, they have their own standalone, record system. So now they're gonna incorporate all their records into the sheriff's office records database, and we maintain all that for them. So when people make records requests, they used to have to do those things themselves. Now we can do that for them. We have a staff of record staff that can do those things. So overall, it's good for everybody to have the animal services under the sheriff's office. And she summed it up here by saying, ultimately, this provides a safer, more effective operation that supports best industry practices with an emphasis on decreasing response times and increasing our presence in the community. So hopefully you'll see that if you ever have to call animal services. Is there any other concerns for you folks, or from you folks related to the sheriff's office specifically?
I just have a question with the animal control. Are they also getting more people? Because that's the constant that we keep getting anytime somebody calls in. We're short-staffed, just turn them loose. Or we'll take them if you can bring them in. But we're not getting any actual responses out here.
I don't know the answer to that. I can find out. I have your name already, so I can find out for you, but I'm not sure if we're adding staffing to them or not. So, Jason?
All right, so that's what the captain said. I'll just go over some more specific numbers.
Introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Jason Presley. Been with the sheriff's office about 20 plus years. Do crime prevention for out here, and also in the unincorporated areas in town, which is Quebec, Leedsdale, Parker, Florida area. So it's a pretty big area what I have. I'm gonna be retiring very, very, very soon. Deputy John Bartman in the back is gonna be taking my spot out here. The commissioners approved another full-time employee, so we'll have one crime prevention specialist out here in the corridor, which is good. So I don't have to split my time, he wouldn't have to do that. So if you need to bug him, please do it. Email him all the time with questions, just to say hi, whatever, he'll love it. So. But I'll just get into more kind of the specific calls. From January 1 of this year until today, at about 11 o'clock, we roughly responded and took 7,114 calls for service. That is from Watkins Road to Deer Trail. I'm sorry, Gun Club Road to Deer Trail. So it's pretty big. It's a lot of calls. Now, consider this also with us taking over Bennett, that those numbers are included in this also. So it did go up from last year, but the numbers are still about on par with what it's been the last couple of years, even with the population growth that we've had out there, especially out of Scott Ranch, which is getting big. Bennett is getting huge. It's gonna get bigger. So it's there. But I'll just go over some of the specific numbers. I don't have any specific details to these calls with these numbers, but I'll just give you kind of what we respond to. So assaults, we responded to 32 assaults, 161 assist the other agencies. So in other words, if State Patrol or Adams County needs our help, 161 times this year that happened. 36 auto thefts, which has went down tremendously since 2021, when we led the state, or led the nation, actually in auto thefts. The numbers out here went way down on that. 31 burglaries, 140 citizens assist, so if they call and need our help or something non-criminal, respond to that. 192 civil service, basically for delivering summonses, divorce papers, etc. All that, 192. 17 dead on arrivals. 79 verbal disturbances, 20 domestic violences. 67 fires, which is about average. Most of those are in the summer when pile burning mostly, so that's quite a few for this year. 261 follow-up on cases. 87 loud noise complaints, 836 medical calls. So usually respond with fire, the Deer Trail buyers, whatever, but 836, which is quite a bit. 466 messages for deputies. 202 property accidents. We recovered 20 stolen vehicles, which is down a little bit compared to last year. 105 residential alarms, 2 robberies, 15 sex assaults, 71 suspicious person calls, 164 suspicious vehicle calls, 65 thefts, 285 traffic complaints, which most of those are on I-7. 15 trespass to properties, 45 unwanted subjects, 46 warrant arrests, 387 welfare checks. Total 7,114. So we're pretty busy, as you can tell. I think picking up for Bennett, actually having a deputy full-time now for day shift, I mean, that benefits everybody, because if something happens in Strasburg, Byers, Deer Trail, where we need more than a one-car response, they leave Bennett to go help. So, I mean, it's helped, with Bennett growing, I can see their numbers for funding more full-time deputies is gonna happen in the near future, so, which is even gonna make it better for that. Chop shops. I did talk to one of our investigators today. The past year, there's been quite a few chop shops for stolen vehicles that have been discovered out in this area. A lot of them were like out of Aurora, where we just got tips. Our investigators did one great job on kind of closing them down and scaring them and getting them out of town, out of the area. So that's helped out a lot. So I asked them if we're familiar with any other ones right now. There's no active investigations going on in these stuff. So, which is good. It's a lot better. So any questions on any of this? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to join with everybody in congratulating you and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I've known this gentleman for decades.
Oh, wow.
Never thorn in his side. But, you know, he's always been there, he's always been responsive, as have all the deputies and everybody at the sheriff's department. So I thank you, I wish you well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
will ask more, they'll stick around for questions after everything's said and done. But I do want to recognize our Public Works Director, Brian Weimer, is here. And he brought some staff with him. Eric McKinnon is here from the Road and Bridge Group. And I just want to say, you know, you hear a lot about people moving to Florida. We hired him away from Florida. Now, he's learned an awful lot about snow since he's been here. And he's really good at what he does. So, Eric, you want to come up? And do you want to introduce Spencer Bell is here. I'm sorry, Mike Carrollson. Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Good afternoon, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Does it have to be held a certain way for PowerPoint?
Put the thing on your ear.
This. Like that? Okay. That working okay? All right. All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Yeah, Eric McKinnon. I work with Arapahoe County Public Works and Development. I'm the Road and Bridge Division Manager. With me, I've got my Operations Manager, Mike Harrelson. And, you know, it's been touched on a little bit. There's snow operations, which, you know, we serve the community with. We're watching the forecast right now. We got some snow coming in tonight. So, you know, we've got our trucks and our teams are getting prepared and getting ready to be able to have the blades out on the gravel roads, having the plows out on the paved roads, and trying to get those roads cleared. And so, and we also have, we really are supported a great deal by our FFM, which is our Fleet and Facilities Division department within the county. And we do have a staff member in audience that really supports that. And so I won't call him out, but he's in the audience and we appreciate him. I think he's attending as a citizen. So, but, yeah, it was mentioned about the 1A ballot initiative. That's obviously contemplated to introduce some new funding for county services, and there's some estimated values of roughly about $10 million that's contemplated to come specifically to my division, which is Road and Bridge, to help fund more road maintenance activities, more bridge maintenance activities, and some other services. So I'm just going to touch on some of those things a little bit. We are still working on a 5-year comprehensive plan that we're working in consultation with county leadership, Board of County Commissioners on. So that plan is not solidified yet, but a lot of that plan will be published out for the public to be able to view the roads that we're going to be doing road maintenance on. But for 2026, we did kind of carve out and look at what specific projects are going to be in this general area. And so what I can tell you is that there's about 20 miles of gravel roads that we're going to be re-graveling in this area, and paved roads is totaling about 52 miles of paved roads that will get new treatments relative to those roads. The value that we're looking at just on pavement treatments and gravel roads, and again, this is just for this general area, is around $11.8 million. That's an increase from past years, right? So again, that's a reflection of additional resources that are coming into the county, and we hope that that will continue. Because we like to say yes. We get lots of calls, similar to our partners at the sheriff's office. We get lots of calls. We're very busy. We get lots of service requests for potholes or roads to be paved or the roads to be bladed and all of those things. But it takes resources to do all that stuff. It takes resources to do anything that you do, right? So the more resources that we have, the better service that we can provide. We like to say yes. And in order for us to say yes, we have to have the resources in order to say yes, right? So we appreciate the contributions from the community to give us the resources so we can say yes. So, we are in public service because we like what we do. We like to be able to serve the community. We like to be able to give you guys better roads. And so really at the heart of it, that's what we like to do. That is just kind of a general overview of myself and my team and what we're doing. If you have any specific service requests, we do have a website where you can go on our county website, and you can easily go on there and you can submit an online service request, and you can put in the information, and we have a process where we'll log that request, and we have a priority system where, you know, for example, if it's a pothole request, if it's a small pothole, it's gonna go a little bit lower down the line. If it's a big pothole, it gets done a little bit sooner, right? So we're no different than anyone. If there's a small hole in the fence, you might let it sit for a little bit. There's a big hole in the fence and the cows are getting out, you jump on that and you address it, and then we try to do the same thing. But there's also a phone number, if you don't wanna be on the computer and you don't wanna do that, there's also a phone number that's listed, and you can call that phone number, and we'll be happy to take those requests and provide that service for you, answer any questions that you might have. With that, Mike, is there anything that you wanna add?
Yeah, just one thing that I want to add is at the beginning of, can you hear me?
Yes.
Beginning of 25, we were 14 vacancies. Right now, heading into this winter, we're at 5. So really excited about that. Really excited to continue to produce the service level that we've hoped for. We're gonna have plows out there tonight into tomorrow. It does look like in this area about 2 to 4 inches, so be safe and you know, continue to give our plows spaces like you guys always do out here. So, yeah, thank you.
We're happy to take some questions if we
Yeah,
can.
go ahead, this is question time, so.
Question time.
So, years ago, they used to dedicate a snowplow to buyers during the snowstorms, and lately they just don't do it. Is that something that we will eventually come back to here?
Yeah, we obviously discuss that every year.
Use the microphone.
Yeah, that's always in discussion. Those are things that we talk about every year with the supervisor staff and management staff. We do not plan on doing that this upcoming winter to continue to spread and be able to cover everything that we have out here, so.
Yes, I live at the end of at the end of the road of a gravel road, and they maintain the road for snow emergency, snow type thing. Up to where this road ends, the paved road ends. After that, there's no maintenance. Why?
For snow removal,
Yes,
where's this at?
this is on Road 157.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good question, something that we'll look into. I know that, you know, we go off a priority system, and we can also only cover so much. Obviously, we want that to continue to increase. I will personally look at that area, and we'll talk about that as a management group and see if that's something that we can add to a gravel road blade list.
I just wanted to say thank you, because we moved out here a year ago, and we're off of, Headlight and Quincy. And, you know, I was one of the ones using the computer to complain every time it got really bad. But what you just did with Quincy, Airline, just really nice now, a lot better, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, the surface is more sustained.
Yeah.
Good.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of traffic at Quincy.
Oh, man, tons.
Ah,
So, yeah.
Well, that goes back to the question I had. Is there plans to pave from Strasburg Road to, the Bennett Kiowa Road, Quincy? Because I have a lot of traffic right through there.
A lot of trucks on that section.
Sure.
And that's currently gravel.
That's currently
Yeah.
gravel.
Yeah, that, currently, it's not slated to be transferred from gravel to pavement, currently.
What do we have to do to get that transferred?
Well, that's a great question. We have to go course correction here, but what I can tell you is that, I think, it's been looked at and it's been discussed. I think it's a matter of, priority system and funding and looking at the feasibility of that. But I think the short answer is, right now, it's not currently funded. There's a backlog of, you know, county needs as it relates to infrastructure. both from roads and bridges to buildings and so on and so forth. So I think it just has to be looked at in the grand scheme and the big picture, and then a determination made and as to when, you know, that might could get done. But I can tell you, it's not currently a funded project at the moment.
That's an alternate route that many people that from here drive into Aurora as I-70 has continued to deteriorate. And, you know, our cars are getting tore up on I-70. We're taking Quincy into town before we're taking I-70 into town.
We'll take that as a compliment that our gravel road is better than I-70 then.
Yeah.
We have a good gravel road program.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's the best information I have at the moment. I don't know, Brian, do you have anything additional that you'd like to add to that?
Brian Weimer, Public Works Director. Great question. We do have, on the plan, ultimately doing something with that road. I think you need to understand how much that would cost. And the cost of that is probably in the neighborhood of about $2 million a lane mile to pave it. And if you have 2 lane miles for those 2 lane miles, that'd be $4 million. And there's 4 miles there that we'd have to do. So you can do the math with it. So it's working out that funding associated with it. And that's why we're trying to keep the gravel roadway side as much maintenance as it is. At some point, you know, it gets upside down, it may be more cost effective. But right now, we just don't have the funding, even with the additional funding that we have to deal with that. So I think that becomes a challenge.
Okay, so on the gravel road thing, I mean, I'm gonna be realistic about the paved roads. That ain't gonna happen. But on the paved road thing, we've lived out here when a lot of these roads out here were just straight dirt. And then the county came in a few years back and put down recycled asphalt on all these roads out here. Absolute waste of money if your guys are gonna have your grader operators coming out here, constantly turning that over, digging dirt up out of the ditches, mix it in with that stuff. All it does is creates more problems for the cars.
Yes.
Why even sit there and spend, I travel a lot of dirt roads in different counties. I did one here just recently here this summer over here in Albert County. They laid down recycled asphalt. They kept their bloody grader operators off those roads. And they packed down almost as hard as asphalt. The county's not in the business of keeping guys in jobs grading. I mean, that's a waste of taxpayer money. Why even waste your time putting recycled asphalt down if the grader operator is gonna go in there and continue to turn this stuff over? They put their blades down into the ditch, they bring it up onto the asphalt. I don't know how many people out here live in the rural area out here outside of town, but flat tires, if the county had become responsible for flat tires out here and the repairs of vehicles out here because of that, the county would change some policies with what goes on with those grader operators. Don't even waste your time putting down recycled asphalt if you're not gonna keep those graders off those roads.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Any other questions?
Yeah, got a spot right there, right outside of town.
Am I not right?
Right where Alameda hits. Good point. County Road down in Alameda, about a half mile out. Well, what they've done, they said, I've talked to the grader operator, and thank God for him, otherwise we wouldn't have him. But Vandermeer closed, so that's Vandermeer. But anyhow, he has took it upon himself to put that dirt all the way up to 40, to the pavement. The apron that used to be there was so bad, it's just humongous holes. And they always say nobody will do anything about it till somebody dies. We'll go another 30 yards down that road, and there's the headstone for the little girl that hit that thing. And who knows how fast she's going, who knows how long she had her license, but she's dead. So thank God for my grader operator that he's pushed that up and fills that stuff up. But I think there's an apron underneath there. The problem is it's a triangle, and the woman has the 3 alleys. That's her leach field. That's the drain off for 40, that's her leach field, and that water goes right at the end of that apron, takes it out all the time. you know, people coming from the liquor store, going out to 192 or whatever. Well, as fast as they can get going from the liquor store, so they make that left-hand turn as fast as they get. And going the other way, that stop sign is like turn signals in Colorado, is a suggestion. I was gonna put a game camera up there just so I could humor everybody. So if get an opportunity, get with, but the blade operator's hands are tied. And the people that do the state snow plowing, that turn around there and make a mess to go back the other way, said, no, we got, was it 32 feet or whatever from the center of the roadway? That's not even ours. And he fills the holes up. You know, and I think at one point in time you guys came out and put some asphalt in it, but you know, that transition, it's not gonna work. You know, grain trucks, tractors, stuff going through there. So it's an area of concern. And if there's any sheriffs in here and you wanna quota up, you can sit down there in the driveway and park a little bit farther back, and they go through there at 75, and be a good spot.
Okay, very good. All right, we'll not see any other hands. We appreciate your time. Thank you, for hiring us to work for you, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank y'all.
Maurice, did you put your name down on the sheet so they can get back to you? If you do, they'll get back to you. That's Maurice Mertens that asked about 159?
157.
157. So, let's open it up for questions, for Representative Richardson, for me, for Public Works, or the Sheriff's Office. Yes, sir.
Hey, I got one for the sheriff's department.
Okay. Captain Heaton, you wanna come up and listen to this? And I'll repeat the question after he's done. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, my question is, and I think everybody can see it right now, I'm getting tired of the drunk drivers out here during the middle of the night. I'd like to know why we don't have some kind of sheriff's department or somebody sitting out here monitoring these roads out here. Crying out loud, just right over here by Shooters, they took that rail out, that wood rail, you know that was a drunk driver.
So the question is about drunk drivers and enforcement of traffic rules by the sheriff's office out here. And I'm hearing it's mainly a problem at nighttime.
Oh, you know, I mean, you can see it all over, even right there by the stop sign, getting off the highway, somebody took a sign out.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Colorado all my life, and I swear to God, I've never seen so many drunk drivers in my life as what's living right out here.
So it comes down again to resources, obviously, right? So currently, for our current patrol shifts, we have one dedicated officer for this eastern portion of the county on each shift. And then the other officers from, western districts would come out here as needed to help, support them. Obviously, you heard Jason's statistics, how many calls we, covered Adams County or State Patrol, and vice versa, right? We're dependent on each other out here to help, support one another. But we have identified a need for more resources out here, as I mentioned earlier, with the 1A funding. As long as the budget gets approved, we're gonna be increasing deputies out in this eastern portion of the county. So we're gonna have 2 officers on each shift come January is our hope, just so you understand. So we understand your frustration, and there's just limited number of people, to handle all these calls that we do. And unfortunately, calls take priority over, sitting on a roadway looking for the drunk driver. That's not an excuse, but we have to handle the calls too, right? So, but yes, I hear your concern.
Deb has one for you too.
Kevin, so while you're up there, I'm assuming that it's still valid, would you talk about the Sheriff's Department Citizen Academy and the ride-along program, please? Because I think people out here can benefit from it. I know it's a long drive in, but I think that it's very beneficial for people to know what the officers go through and the ins and outs of your patrol.
Yeah, so she wants me to elaborate on our Citizens Academy and our ride-along program that we offer. So the ride-along program is through patrol, obviously. We have an online link that you can go to the Sheriff's Office website, and you fill in the application, tell them what days you would like to ride, what shift you want to ride, and we do a background check on you, and then we'll let you know when you can come out and ride. For the Citizens Academy, that's something that the community resource officers handle at the department, and we host it at the sheriff's office, closer to town there. But it's a great opportunity to see all the inner workings of the department, see what we actually do, day to day. You get to go out to the shooting range, you get to go to the drive track, learn about our academy, just everything, related to the department, you can see firsthand. So it is a great opportunity. I don't know when the next one's gonna be offered, but probably beginning of the year sometime.
April.
April? Okay.
Follow the sheriff's office social media. When it opens up, it'll be on the sheriff's office social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, correct?
And one thing I want to add one thing about that Citizens Academy. I ran it for 7 years. It's a great program, and I know it's a haul coming in from out here, going to 13101 East Broncos Parkway to do it. I think they changed it now, it's 1 day a week, 1 evening a week, 6 to 9 p.m., and 2 Saturdays, 1 at the fairgrounds and 1 at our shooting range / Highlands Ranch Academy. It would help. Who had the traffic complaint about the DUIs? Like if you would go to that, because one of the opportunities in that is you can do a ride along. Go do a ride along one night about July 2nd out here. There ain't time to even go to the bathroom.
Oh, I'm quite aware of that.
Yeah, but it's a great program, and you will learn so much about not only cop work, but about the sheriff's office in general. And it's free, and we feed you. We do all that good stuff, so highly recommend it.
I just feel like this whole area out here is ignored by Aurora and Centennial, and that part of Arapahoe County, it's like we don't exist out here.
One thing about the deputies that work out here, I've worked out here for 4 years straight on graveyards. And I've been out here in this position now for almost 10 years. I love this area. I'm a Kentucky boy. 1 stoplight town where I grew up in, so this is my type of area I like. Most of the deputies that work out here, they have stuck out here, they've been out here for a while. So that's one good thing, you build those relationships out here. For me personally, I would rather be out here than anywhere. That side of town, working. It's just my personal thing, I like the people, it's just my type of area. That's one thing about the people that work out here, they stay.
How many people have seen a deputy with their cowboy hat? Because that's part of their uniform now, too.
Well, I've seen them out rounding up cattle too. We had one deputy out here, he's a sergeant now, and I keep seeing him got his resume for the cattle, the pig, the buffalo. They're out there, they're working for the people, and they know the people out here.
That's called other duties as assigned. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanna thank you for fighting a good fight to get Road and Bridge and the Sheriff's Department the money they need to be able to serve us in this community that's not prepared for the number of people that are out here.
I agree.
And the people that don't understand the way of life out here.
Appreciate your saying thank you. Boreas?
Yes, Jeff, what's the chances of the budget being approved?
The question was, what are the chances of the budget being approved? 100% that a budget will be approved. I don't know.
A budget, yes, a budget.
We're required to pass the budget by December 17th. This year, we're hearing it on December 9th, which is one of the earliest we've ever heard the budget. It's a large budget. It's never gone down. It's always gone up. But this year, after the voters approved amendment or initiative 1A, we took a whole year to collect the money, but also to work on deciding how to spend it so that it's not a drunken sailor's spending spree, that it is something that we will make last for decades. And that's truly the feeling of all 5 county commissioners I'm not sure that the proposed budget, I don't see a whole lot of changes, but there could be some minor changes here and there. I think the personnel decisions about hiring, the number of staff, I think that's a done deal. That's Jeff's opinion. The proof is in the pudding. December 9th, Tuesday, by the way, there are two buyers-related public hearings that day. So if you can, make it to Littleton, or there are instructions on our website how you can participate virtually as well. So that's when it'll happen, and I don't anticipate a whole lot of things changing right now. It's pretty late in the game to make some changes. I have business cards in the back. I have flyers for the fundraiser for December 11th in Bennett at the F&M Bank. If there are no more questions, yes, sir.
On the buyer sub-area plan, you've got a lot of them highlighted and changed zoning. Is that, it's gonna be set in stone?
It's open for discussion. That's,
Okay, they've got some property that we have, the MU,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be Milo for, it's been there for about 4 generations and hopefully be about another 4. So if they decide to do that, do we have that voice whether or not it stays ag?
Brian, do you want to address that? Just because I'm not exactly sure how
I
to
mean, you
answer
can't
that.
change our ag status to MU.
No, that won't.
The plan does not change what your zoning is, okay? You would have to go through a zoning. What the comp plan says is this would be a good use for it, but the actual zoning is not approved as part of this, buyer sub.
And will not be approved unless the landowner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless it comes in for a specific rezoning to make
Arizona.
that change.
Okay. You gotta understand that some of the questions I'm asking are for people that aren't here tonight.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that was one of them. The other one, we were talking about the open space side of the world, and according to Buyer's sub-area plan, is there any way to move laterally with these open space funds?
Laterally.
Laterally, most of the stuff and the vision and the statements that you have placed, like 4.11 and 5.11 on the Buyer's sub-area plan, has to do with people and students and young people and the people that don't have cars. You see people walking and the traffic going underneath the highway. That's the only way you get underneath the highway. And we need sidewalks, you know.
You need
feasibility
paths.
studies.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
especially for students, but we do have older people that don't have cars, and you see several of them walking, and, you know, the bike goes out in the traffic. Matter of fact, you know, there's another gravestone or head marker over there where the last person died when they got pushed out there. One of this open space thing I'm reading, it's $4.9 million was appropriated back in 2017 for this Bijou Gulch and Mule Gulch. And for all the people in here that are hunters, that's landlocked. That don't do squat for us. What, y'all paid money for that? How about taking a little bit of that open space money? I know it's $14.9 million, but as I read it, that's 50% of that. Does anybody understand how open space is appropriated? It's your tax dollars, you're considered stakeholders, am I
It's a
correct?
sales tax.
it's a sales
Okay,
tax.
so, so much of that, and it goes into that directly impacts parks, trails, open space, and we don't even, y'all don't even mow out here, all right? Snow is reciprocal.
When you say mowing, you're talking about
No mow squat,
the rights,
no,
the right
mow nothing.
next
Nothing.
to the roads.
Yeah,
Is that
when
what
you do mow, it's about 8.5 feet tall, you lay it over on its side and spit the rest of the road. Not even gonna go there, anybody knows out here can see that. So what I'm talking about is, most of the structured sub-area plans, specifically Descate, safety. Safety for the young people that live here, the old people that live here, and you're gonna dedicate, you know, sidewalks to get to the Kelver Library.